Okay, so I am going to show you guys how to do a full bling nail. And what I'm showing you is how to color match the stones with a background. You want to have a background to the nail that actually matches the actual stones that you're putting in place. If you're doing a mix of stones, fine, hopefully you have a glitter color that matches the mix. If you're doing a purple and pink full bling nail, maybe you have a purple and pink glitter background. I suggest gel polish or a colored acrylic. So I'm just showing you different color combos using my Swarovski swatch stick, which I put a little video of that, which I love. So I'm just showing you can use these stones reflect multiple colors. So you use multiple backgrounds, the purple, the teal type background, the blue, the black. Just find something that's sparkly because we're going to have gaps in the actual nail where the stones don't fit because they're, round, and that's just the way physics and things like that work. So you want to have something that's going to sparkle in between those spaces. So what I did is I buffed the nail and cleaned it with swipe, and I'm using the brush on resin that I love from Ocean Nail Supply. And so now I'm using, this background doesn't necessarily coordinate with these stones, and I'm just going to say this one time only. I am not a huge fan of these Swarovski crystals. These are, I believe, chalk white AB or opal AB. I don't know what they are, but they're not my favorite. So what I'm first doing is I use two different patterns when I do a full bling nail. I'm going to show you both today. So the first one I use is putting a line down the center of the nail with the larger stones. Or you could do it with smaller. It doesn't really matter, but I generally like to do the larger stones to take up a larger portion of the nail. So I go ahead and put a full line, and I'm just applying glue or more resin as I find that I need it. Just making sure that it is wet, so to ensure that the stones are adhered. I generally like to use 3 different sizes to do a full nail. I don't like these stones, and I only had 2 sizes, but I did want to use them for this just because I don't imagine that I'll use these a ton. So I generally like to use 3 sizes, and I usually like to use like a 5, 9, and 12, or a 5, 7, 16, a 7, 12, 16, just 3 different sizes. I really prefer the smallest size to be a 5 or a 7, just so I can get into them little spaces. But I only had 2 sizes, so there is some areas, specifically around the cuticle area, where I wish I had smaller stones, but you guys get the idea. So I put a line down the middle, and I fill it in kind of how bricks are, how it has that kind of offset. So that's how I'm kind of filling them in. And you want to leave a space between the free edge of the nail and the stones, because you don't want the nail to be too bulky. So I just, finished the other half of the nail off camera. Real easy, real quick. It's not my favorite, but right here I'm showing you, this is actually, I used 3 different sizes for this nail, and you can see how perfectly they fit together with the line. You can see the larger stones down the center, the smaller stones around the edge, and it doesn't look bulky, too big. Beautiful nail. So the second nail I'm going to show you, and again, I started the video off showing you, you want to have a background that coordinates. These are just extra stones that I didn't feel like sorting them back out into their respective little storage spaces. So I'm just throwing them on this nail. So this is the second type of bling nail I like to do. And then I kind of do more often. It's kind of just random throwing them on there. And for this, again, I like to use at least 3 different sizes. And I used... in this nail, I'm sure I use a 16, 12, possibly some 9s and 7s. It's just random stones, crystals that I had laying around. So I'm just showing you kind of how I fit everything in. So you want to try to put something down, kind of think ahead, if I'm putting this big stone here and this small stone here, do I have a spot the spot I have left, am I going to be able to fit 2 smaller stones, 1 bigger stone? How is it going to work out? And the resin I used does not dry quickly, which I like because it gives me time in general to play around with the stones. So I can see if I like a stone in a certain place. If I don't, I can go ahead and slide it around, move it around. Maybe I need to have the slightest gap between the stones. And that's the beauty. If you pick a coordinating background for your crystals, the gaps, you can kind of manipulate the nail a little better, the crystals, and maybe have gaps in certain places to kind of make the nail look fuller. But if you have a gap there and you have a coordinating background, it's not going to impact the look of the nail as much. So I am just sped up the video, and I'm just showing you right there that you want to have the tiniest space. You don't want to put the crystal all the way to the edge, because that is going to give you a bulky nail. And that's what we want to avoid. You don't want to have this huge crystal nail and then these skinny, rest of the nails. It's going to make it very obvious. I mean, you want it to be obvious. It's a bling nail, of course. But, it's just going to it's going to stand out even more, and not for the right reasons. So I'm just showing you how I slide, the stones into the respective places, and just kind of, get a feel for where I want the stones to go. And, I'm using my crystal katana throughout this whole video, which was given to me by my friend Demisha. Hey, Demisha. Thank you. So, I'm just showing you how I place the stones, and applying more resin, applying the stones, moving them around. Again, this is not, a coordinating background. It's not a background color I would use. It's just a gel polish I threw on for the sake of the video. But you just want to make sure, whether you're using a gel polish or an acrylic, a colored acrylic, a glitter acrylic as your background, that you buff it first. Generally, I apply the my Axiom top coat, and then buff that. Make sure I clean it with swipe, and then go in with the resin. So I'm just finishing off the nail, fitting, trying different stones, making sure they fit, going around and making sure they're not too close to the edge. You see right here, I'm making sure none of them are hanging off, pushing them in if they are. And if you find that it may be an issue, you may want to, if you know ahead of time which nail you want to have to be your full bling nail, maybe make that nail a little bit more narrow, so that when you add the stones, it doesn't appear to be as wide. That's also a tip, that you can use. Now I'm just showing you the, the finished product of the nails. So that's the one where, of course I did the straight line, and that's kind of random. The random placement that I use. I like them both, but again, I'd recommend using at least three different sizes. Your smallest size either being, a 5 or a 7. A 3 would be wonderful, but you can't find too many Swarovski size 3s unless you get them in bulk. But that's just my recommendation. So this is a random placement bling nail. So you see that, they're just randomly placed on, but the nail doesn't look bulky. There are, slight gaps, but there's that glitter background. And it looks good in motion and movement. You can't really tell. So now I am showing you how I seal around the stones. And no matter if it's a full bling nail or just, random designs placed on a nail, you want to seal around your stones. That's what's going to give you longevity, in reference to wear time. So what I like to take is a dotting tool or a very small brush. In this case, I'm using the dotting tool because it's a little finer. And I place the my OPI Axiom gel top coat and on a form. So I'm just going to pick a little bit up and literally seal around the stones. You want to make sure that you don't get the top coat on top of the stones or too much on the stones. I mean, it's going to happen a little bit, but I mean, if you don't get much, it's not really going to take away from the look at all. And plus it's clear anyway, so it's not going to affect it by much, but you want to make sure you have a small amount. You don't want to flood the nail and apply this big old glob and it gets everywhere. So I'm just showing you how I carefully just go around, sealing the edges, and you want to essentially prong set in the nail. And I've said it in other videos, and I'll say it going forth. I'm sure that's essentially what you want to do. So now, instead of having this edge where the acrylic meets the stone, you're going to have this kind of, I don't even know, like it's gonna be you're not gonna have an actual edge, an angle to the nail. It's gonna be rounded, so it's gonna be hard to remove, which is a pain. Simultaneously, it's gonna, you know, make sure you have a long wear time. So this is just the finished product. I've sealed in, you know, both of the bling nails. They're just, you know, for sake of show. And I'm just showing you different angles. With the top coat, they still bling. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thanks.